All right, welcome back to this week's episode of Ribs Real Estate and Rambling. I am your host, Roy May with Bach Realty Group, and we are coming to you from Cooper's Old Time Pit Barbecue in Aggie Lane. It's right off the bypass here in College Station. If you get a chance and you're in town, absolutely stop by. It is fantastic barbecue. It is fantastic people, and you really can't ask for much more than that, honestly. That's about as Texas as it gets. It's good barbecue and good people. So today I have a dear friend of mine on. Well, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Johnna Lee. I'm an academic advisor for the School of Visual and Performing Arts for Texas A&M.
A newly minted academic advisor, and we'll get to that for in a second.
Oh,
but she's a dear friend of mine, and of my family, if we're being honest. And so I've known her and her husband Ronnie through the years, and so we've been able to kind of. Well, I met her in school actually. I met her when she was just this tiny little freshman.
I'm still tiny, in my defense. I'm not a full-grown human. I know.
But well, and we'll get to that too. Like, I'm glad we didn't need a booster seat. But her feet are touching the floor today, though, so I feel like that's a plus for the most part. But so I met her at A&M. So I've known her since I was a youngster. She was a student. She's class of 18. I'm class of 15. And we just kind of cultivated a relationship from there. And then and she's married, I'm married, the spouses hanging out together, and then, it takes an army to raise my daughter, so I appreciated the help.
But kid's awesome.
But so we're going to get all into your career because you worked for the A&M system for a good long while now, and which is, there are a ton of amazing people that work for the A&M system, which is good because it takes about a ton of people for the A&M system to operate and work. But I want to start out, we're just going to start back at the beginning to an extent. Madisonville to A&M.
Oh, God bless.
So, and this is a question I ask a lot of Aggies, but where in your time in Madisonville did A&M become the choice, or was it always a choice, or was it, go, like kind of thing,
So first off, my older brother's also an Aggie. He is class of 13, same program I graduated from. Some of my profs actually knew him, fun fact, and we are nothing alike. So
that's never good.
No, it wasn't.
I have two older sisters going through middle school and high school. They're like, oh, you're Susanna's little brother. I'm like, I'm not as smart. Just letting you know right now, it's not going to be the same.
You're not. Like, Donnie's fantastic, and he's super smart and all that, and so he kind of set the way for me on that one. But I had an ag teacher I want to say it was my junior year. I did ag issues for him. And she was like, hey, you're really good at public speaking and you're really good at ag, and so you should really consider A&M.
An ag teacher that's an ag?
Yeah.
Okay.
She graduated from here at some point, I'm pretty sure. So she's just kind of pushing that forward. And I grew up 45 minutes from here, so it was either this or Sam. And so I was like, hey, Aggie
Heaven forbid we travel outside the bubble, though.
You're not wrong. And so Aggie Ring's a little bit more recognizable, and I decided that was going to be where I set my feet, and so A&M ended up being the call.
Well, there you have it. And I don't think that it's necessarily everybody's dream to graduate from A&M and then go right back and turn around and work for A&M.
No.
But there's a lot of Aggies that their dream job would be getting to work for A&M in some sort of capacity, and you got to do that.
Yeah.
And so you started off at admissions.
Right.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about admissions because obviously it's such an important cog of the entire A&M system, right? Like, it's not just ensuring that we get 50,000 freshmen per year or whatever we're aiming at these days. But it's really making sure that the right people are getting into A&M, and I think that's something I've always talked about is the students that we have at A&M and the people that come to A&M are they're a little bit different and not like the commercial, like not different, weird.
Some of them are.
Yeah, well that's fair, but there's weird people everywhere. But really just to find those people, and not that there's the essay of like, what does it mean to you to be an Aggie? Because that's an essay you write about 3 years after you leave the university is when you finally start probably embracing and learning that. But tell me about, and honestly, tell me the high stress environment of admissions. I mean, what's it like when you're working in an admission department that's having this many people come in every year?
So I was on the undergrad admit side. And so basically what I did throughout my career in admissions was if like Kira sent in her transcript, I would help make sure that her transcript made it to her application and that those two things could go forward where she would have the best chance of getting admitted into the university. It's fun when there's 75,000 transcripts coming in.
I was going to say, like
and they're all coming across my desk.
That job seems
at one
really
point or
easy when you
another.
talk about one transcript.
You know.
Because what, it's, gosh, I don't know, it's about 10,000 a year is what we're letting in right now?
That's what we're letting in.
Right.
That doesn't mean that's who's applying.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So out of 10,000, I mean, you know, what are the numbers like? I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but I mean.
I mean, there's a lot that I don't know just because my job was so segmented into that, like, little facet of admissions. But I mean, we'd see 75,000 docs.
I mean, I feel like the entire process of admissions for a university as large as Texas A&M, you actually have to whittle it down to such small segments so everything receives the attention that it requires.
Right, and it also helps make sure stuff like the Aunt Becky case doesn't happen all the time. Like the whole, like, bribing kids to get in. Everything stays pretty segmented to allow that stuff doesn't happen.
Right, that's fair. All right. And kind of through your time, not your time at admissions though. It's you know, your time just kind of staying within the system. You know, it's when you finish at A&M and you don't leave and you stay within the system. I think the relationships are a little bit different.
Yeah.
That you know, you'll have mentors and some even peers that your relationship will be one way, but when you stick around, it starts to cultivate into obviously the more professional relationship. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the relationships and the mentors that you have. That's just very specific to kind of the Aggie network.
God bless.
And Dr. Lofton, who's been on our show, is a fantastic person. I want to talk to you a little bit about how he's helping you mold your future trajectory, but we'll get to that in a second. But I want you to talk a little bit about your Aggie grandpa, and I know he's passed away, but you know, your relationship and what guidance was he providing you? Because what he did in his career had nothing to do with being admissions, right? So just kind of, what's the mentorship that Mike Beggs gave you?
God bless, you're going to get me choked up.
You don't have to go super in depth at it.
So I actually met Mike Beggs back in our good old days. Mm-hmm. And so shortly after that, I went back to work for the university. And so it's like, okay, you know, how do I maintain these relationships going forward? And so we had potato dates, which some people on Aggie Twitter will remember. Sue Owen was in on those, and she's become also one of those incredible mentors and friends.
No, Sue Owen, just absolutely fantastic person.
You've got to get her on at some point,
I
just
will
as a
bring
sidebar.
That's a good call.
But no, so we just kept meeting up, and so he actually just invited us to his house, and he was like, hey, do you want to come over, eat pizza, and drink wine? And I was like, sold, absolutely down. I'm so game for this. And we just, I don't know, it just kind of happened. And he had nothing to do with my field at all. But he had everything to do with what it means to be a good Aggie and to be a good former student. You know?
Yeah, I will say Mike Beggs absolutely nailed that to a T. Because again, I mean, think about what your degree was in, and think about, you know, the job you were doing at A&M. And Mike Beggs is, you know, the only reason he left the Marine Corps, you know, because basically he was a war hero.
Yeah.
I mean, he got medically discharged.
Yeah.
And so it's not like y'all have a ton in common on the professional front. But I think that's the amazing part about it, is you still have something so much to talk about, and it's so great just because of, again, you know, it's the Texas A&M bond.
Aggie Network, man.
Now, switching gears to your other kind of big mentor is Dr. Lofton, former president of Texas A&M, and I want you to talk about kind of your trajectory and how it's even currently arcing. It really is arcing. She's a rising star in the Texas A&M system. But
that's such a stretch, but I appreciate it.
But I had to say one nice thing once I got it out of the way. But I want you to talk about how his professional arc is helping almost maybe help you shape your arc.
First off, he is one of the best people on this planet.
Fact.
I adore Dr. Lofton. So we also met because of Good Bull.
Right.
And he came in, and I looked at him as he was coming up to the window, and I looked at him and I was like, hey, I recognize you. And I don't know why I recognize you, because he was the university president right before I got here. Like, I missed him by a semester, and it still ticks me off. I asked him if he could sign my diploma, and he said no. Still better. Anyway, and so we started meeting up, and we started going out to coffee together, and he's been one of those people who's just been instrumental in just believing in me. Coming out of A&M, I had a not so stellar GPA, and so the idea of doing stuff like grad school seemed just insane. But I also knew that grad school was something that would push me on that trajectory that I want to be
That's
on.
probably one of the reasons we got along was that not so stellar GPA thing. Yeah.
But he's just been encouraging me, and he's put me in contact with people within A&M who have been really, really helpful. And he's just been that constant, like, hey, believe it or not, you totally got this. Here's how you get to the places you want to be. Because, I mean, he's been there.
He literally can just turn around, look at his resume, and say, if administration's where you want to be, I super promise that this doesn't have to be the exact path.
Yeah, I don't have physics.
But here's, no, it's totally okay to not have physics. Absolutely. Especially not in 3 years. That's completely insane.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of people 3 years to pass one semester of physics. So, but you know, his arc just relative to becoming an administrator and that high level administrator.
Yeah.
And so, of all the people to talk to that can help you out in this,
he's the guy.
He's one of the guys.
He's amazing.
And he's one of the only ones that's local. So,
yeah.
You know, and obviously a fantastic Aggie and
one of the best humans on this planet.
Totally understandable that you would be upset that you weren't, you know, that you missed him by a year, because he was such a fantastic. I don't even remember if I brought it up in the interview, but I wanted to make these little plush. I was going to call them little lofties, like a little plush toy, because like a gig 'em in one hand and a cell phone in the other, because that's pretty much how you always saw him, just like an oversized bow tie.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could probably still sell a ton of them. I never got around to asking him, because I was like, maybe we should do that for charity, just sell little lofties.
Little lofties.
Yeah.
I'm so down for that.
I know.
I'll help you on Twitter. I got you.
All my great ideas, I just completely forget about generally. That's how that works. So the next thing I really want to get into, and I think this is unique because, like you said, you're a newly appointed academic advisor in the Visual Performing School, right?
The School of Visual and Performing Arts.
At one point, I will get that right. This is not that point. Today is not that day.
I'm liking me too. You're good.
And I get that you're new to it, but you know, you've been through college, you've had an academic advisor, you understand that relationship and how important they can be.
Oh yeah.
But the thing I always laugh about is, and I think you really hit on it, Lofton, saying, no, I mean, you really can do this. Just stop telling yourself that you can't. But what's the feeling going into academic advising at a young age?
It's weird. I gotta be honest with you. It does help that this incoming class, like this class applying, will be class of 2028, which crushes my soul a little bit. So there is a little bit of an age gap now. Like 5 years ago, when I started my career with admissions, I absolutely would not have been ready for what I'm now stepping
into. Well, it's okay.
Into.
They wouldn't have hired you though, so there's that.
Yeah, valid. Like,
that.
I would have been the same age as the seniors, so it would have made no sense.
Yeah.
It is weird because all of my colleagues are always older than me, but it's also set me up to have really cool mentors and really cool people in my life who I get to know. Like my boss is class of 88, which is awesome, and she's so cool.
Well, I will say generally, if you're in a working environment and the majority of your peers and colleagues are older than you, then chances are you're probably ahead of the curve too a little bit, right? I mean, you have to look at it that way. I mean, it makes sense, right? If everybody around you doing your job is a little bit older, then maybe it's not them, it's you. Like, you know, it's in a positive manner. But
look at you being nice.
But knowing, okay, that's twice actually. Like, so I get to skip tomorrow.
I'm keeping that in
my
record.
Skip tomorrow. But because of the situation you're in now, I know that you are yet again looking to further your academic career. So what's up next for you? And I don't know that you set this in stone, but I know like you asked for recommendation letters. So what's next for you academically, and knowing that where you're working as an academic advisor is really pushing you and you know, really promoting the fact like, hey, go get another degree. Yeah,
and being that support is so freaking fantastic. I love my boss for that. So PhD is next, and it feels
nerd.
Okay, that's totally valid. That's actually really valid.
Willingly going to more school. I just like waved the white flag on that one.
No,
but for what? Not just PhD, but in what?
So if everything goes right, I'll be joining the College of Education for a PhD with a focus in higher education administration, which sounds really weird to hear myself say, considering I've only talked about this on your back porch. So
that definitely seems like a Lofton type suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
How long's the program?
About 4 years, depending on how long my dissertation takes.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just.
So if I'm not good at research, it's gonna be a while.
It's gonna be a while. Well, and then maybe you'll be like, all right, well, maybe we'll change career paths maybe a little bit.
We'll do some wiggling.
Now, once you get the degree, it doesn't matter how hard it was to get it, right?
No, I mean that was this one for sure.
Right.
I never thought that this one would happen, much less a master's, much less potentially coming back and being an Aggie again. I'm so stoked.
You only get one ring though.
I asked Sue, I was like, do I have to turn it back around? She's like, no, you've done it once, you're
Just
good.
wear it upside down. I don't know. Yeah, because then you'll be a teacher. She'll need to thump your students. So you have to turn it upside down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to change gears just a little bit because I want to talk about kind of what one of your passions is.
Okay.
And I make fun about you. I make fun of you about this all the time.
That's valid.
This woman lives in a planner, basically. She's
God bless.
Hobby Lobby and planners is just she and Hobby Lobby. It's a dangerous combination. But I know you're doing something with it, kind of as a passion on the side. So why don't you tell me a little bit about An Aggie with a Plan?
Okay. So this was born both out of boredom and a desire to use social media. And to have a practical reason to use social media.
That makes me feel so old that there are people that have a desire to use social media. I'm like, I had to be forced to use some social media.
Potato, I've got degrees in it. Literally two of those. Anyway, so the idea is to expose people to resources and to time management strategies, productivity strategies, things of that nature, and also give me a creative outlook and a creative outlet. My therapist actually recommended it to me. She's like, hey, this could be really good, the combination of journaling, but also structuring your day to make sure there's self-care and wellness involved. So yeah.
That actually sounds wildly fantastic. I will make fun of you about that less now.
Hey!
But so what I want you to do is I want you to plug that because I know you got some socials with it, and I know you just picked up, didn't you just pick up a partnership? Kind of recently, last couple months? I mean,
I've got a couple of Etsy shops that I work with, and so... Yeah, I know.
It's also way outside my league.
I'm such a dork. It's totally cool. But
no, I'm just old. It's okay.
You absolutely are. You're my favorite old man, though. I promise.
Do you hear that, Lofton? Do you hear that?
I'm sorry, Lofton. I love you so much. God bless. If you just destroyed my mentorship, I'm going to be so mad at you.
No, but as it kind of goes together, I know that you have a full-time job. And you're dedicated to what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I just think it's so great that you have that outlet. And so
I
want you to kind of just plug all your socials and everything and just let people know. I don't know if you got something specific going on because I know it's about to be super basic season because pumpkin spice is coming out, which means fall leaves on the planners, right?
Look.
Or is it still spooky season?
I hate you so much right now.
Just check. Plug your socials and everything. Let people know where you are.
I'm at An Aggie with a Plan, just spelled out. I thought it was
An Aggie with a Plan.
An Aggie with a Plan. Yep, that's me. And so I try to share Instagram, YouTube.
Okay.
I think that's it right now. I thought about starting a blog back, but I don't know if I'm going to get around.
Shocked that you're not on TikTok. Absolutely shocked.
I have 4 videos posted, but I'm really lazy sometimes, Roy.
I feel that. Social media can be a burden.
It's a little exhausting.
It can be.
If I'm getting to the point where I'm struggling to put out 2 posts on my main platforms that I use, adding another one, we'll tap the brakes there, Army.
What's the old saying? When you're doing social media, don't do it because you have to, do it because you want to.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
and right now in this season of adjustment, it's very much sticking to what I know.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask you the question that I literally ask all of my guests.
I think you already know the answer.
Fairly understand. I pretty much said, well, they don't. All right. So let's say, let's say the Loftons are coming over for dinner. That's as close to dignitary in this town anyways, right? The Loftons?
Yeah.
They're coming over for dinner, and you have to cook ribs.
Okay.
What do you how are you cooking them? What are you doing?
I'm calling you.
Yeah, see?
Is that not an acceptable?
98% of my guests apparently just don't do barbecue. They buy it and fake it. All right, so you're doing a side. What's are you going to do a dip? Are you going to do a dessert? What are you bringing to be I made that?
Oof. Probably cowboy beans, which I can't share all the details of. It's a secret, and I'm super duper lucky that I know the secret. I love the Lowe family and getting to meet them because the Good Bowl was
the best. Lowe's are fantastic.
I adore them.
Yeah, Teddy Lowe's great.
Cowboy beans. 100%. I'll die on that hill.
If you went to the restaurant back in the day, you know what they are. If you didn't, they're lovely.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of happiness. Come ask me sometimes. I'll give you 80% of the recipe and make you figure out the other 20%. But thank you so much. I'll try not to bump microphones here. Thank you so much for coming out, hon.
Absolutely.
So again, this is an up-and-coming rising star in the Texas A&M system. I'm a firm believer in that. And honestly, if Dr. Lofton is your mentor and he believes in you, that's pretty easy for me to believe in it, right? So thanks again for stopping by. Again, we are at Cooper's Aggie Land right off the bypass, and that is another episode of Ribs Real Estate and Rambling, and we will see y'all next week. Thanks so much.